Hello, welcome to Behind the Emotion. This is a video series where we are looking to empower your emotional evolution. I'm Jade from Jade Sterling Coaching. I'm a positivity coach and a nurse, a counselor, a yoga therapist, a wife and a mum. I bundle all of my skills and experience into these videos just for you. I also provide individualized coaching packages, run group classes, online events, retreats, all of which support you to move into the best version of yourself that you possibly can. And today's video is talking about big emotions and what to do with them. How do we deal with big emotions when they come up? So this is a big topic and I've tried to break it down and I've split the video into two parts essentially. The first part, I'm going to share with you some of my own personal experiences and stories. And the second part, I'm going to give you a very practical exercise that you can use whenever you experience big emotions coming up and you don't know what to do. So my own personal emotional development is still developing. I remember from my younger days just having a very clear-cut thought pattern though of things that felt good must be good and things that don't feel good must not be good. And I spent a lot of time avoiding emotions that didn't feel good on the inside and spending a lot of time trying to experience more of the emotions that felt good on the inside. Now, as I got older, I was able to see that perhaps emotions like anger, for example, I could see that even though I didn't like experiencing anger, I could see how they could be beneficial if one expressed. Sometimes they could have a positive outcome. I started to see how some of the other emotions that we experience might actually have a purpose in creating positive outcomes. It didn't actually occur to me at the time that we have been given a capacity of a whole gamut of emotions that may actually have a purpose that we can actually feel and experience for a reason. That came a little bit later in my development. At this stage, I was still, though, very focused on avoiding the feelings I didn't like and looking to experience the feelings that I did like. One of the first people that really started to change the way I thought about this was my husband. When I met him, he didn't seem to have any problem feeling feelings and expressing some of those not so lovely feelings like anger and frustration. You know, he just moved through it and then he was done. This was just such a new concept for me, just being able to watch someone use their emotion to process their experience and then move into improving themselves from that. That was a bit of an eye-opener and continues to be to this day. So when our first child was born, I started to feel a lot of fear, and a lot of fear that came up in big, overwhelming waves where there isn't any thought necessarily present. It's just a very big sensation. And I know looking back now, I was afraid that my baby wasn't going to get what my baby needed, that our marriage was not going to get what it needed, that I wasn't going to get what I needed. And I didn't like that feeling at all. And I remember my husband saying, we just got to get through it. And I remember saying, no, I don't need to feel this and I don't ever want to feel like this again. Somehow, of course, I got through it. But have you ever had those moments where you make those big, bold statements that you're never going to feel that way again, it's never going to happen again, this will never be the same again? I've learned to be very cautious of things that I'm absolutely certain about, because we do have to be very aware of how we are using our thoughts. Now that is to come. Now I had decided in this moment that I was never going to feel this way again. And then of course the second child was born and I had the same experience of fear coming in where I was just, my brain was ready this time and it put out all stops and said, no, you will not pass. I don't want you here. I will not let you in. Now the fear was trying to come in and move through me and I was not open and receptive to it, and the result was not good. The result actually was just mass anxiety. It was kind of like what was happening, butting up against what I wanted to happen, trying to control the situation, and it became far worse and I didn't know what to do. And I know I'm not on my own in this experience. Having shared it with other people and other people being able to relate to it in some way, shape or form. Now, At the same time, my second baby was being born and I was going through this process. My mother was going through menopause and she was having a tough time of that. She was having mood swings and night sweats and hot flushes and she was having her own highs and lows of levels of anxiety. And so on the advice of her sister, she actually took herself off to her GP for some advice, perhaps some medication or something for some relief of her symptoms or how to better manage it. Now, I remember her so clearly telling me the story of her visit to the GP. I'm going to share it with you now because it really made a penny drop for me that had such a significant change on how I was thinking about my own situation and then how I felt. Now, keep in mind that this is how my mother related. It is not about the medical information that she was given. It's about what she said about her consultation that I want you to pay attention to. That really changed things from my own perspective. So I've made a few notes here so that I get it right. I can still have the same impact for you that it had for me. Now, my mother did come over after she'd visited the GP and she said that she explained to the doctor what her menopause symptoms were and how she was having difficulty managing them. And the doctor said he could give her some tablets or he could put her on a medicated patch that would keep delivering the hormones that she had before menopause, and that would alleviate her symptoms during this time. And then he said the only side effect to this, which were a few, but also having her menstrual period return. So she was having trouble wrapping her head around this, and she asked him, so do you mean that I would go back to the way that I was before menopause and before all this started happening, and I would have a menstrual period and I would have my premenstrual symptoms as well as possibly some of my menopausal symptoms, as well as maybe some of the side effects from the medication? And he said, well, yes. And she asked, but don't I have to go through menopause anyway, eventually? Like, is that what my body, that's what happens and what I need to do? And when would I stop taking the medication? And the doctor said to her, well, you can continue to take the medication as long as you need to be able to manage your symptoms. And then we can reduce the dose over time. Sometimes it can take several years. And until you feel comfortable, we'll reduce the dose and that's when we'll stop the treatment. And she said, so what you're saying is I still have to go through menopause, just maybe slower or later on down the track, or maybe just kind of like prolonged? And apparently he shrugged and he was like, well, yes, once your symptoms pass, which can take several years, we can just slowly take you off the medication and stop the treatment. But yes, you have to go through menopause. It can't be avoided. And that's when for her, she exclaimed to the doctor, but I want to go through menopause. I remember her doing that movement as well. I want to go through menopause. I want to go through it and get to the other side. And actually thinking about it, I'd rather that happen sooner rather than later. So perhaps I won't take the medication. Thank you. And she left. Now that story had such a big impact on me and the experience that I was going through, because certainly no amount of external things that I was doing or that I was taking at the time were actually really able to take away how I was feeling. And I knew that once I stopped the external things of whatever I was doing or whatever I was taking, the feelings would come back in some way, shape or form. And this was the moment that I decided I probably would be better off learning how to move through these feelings to get to the other side, because just as my mother wanted to move through menopause, it was something that kept coming up. It was inevitable that we were going to get through to the other side. Perhaps there was some merit in moving through the process for a greater benefit. And so I've since learned a lot more about the brain and the body and how they work to try and ensure that as a human being we survive. And emotions are actually a really big part of that. Emotions actually derive from your thoughts. They are created from your thoughts. You have a thought. It releases chemicals into your bloodstream and into your body that then generates a sensation that is energy in motion. It is a feeling. It becomes an emotion. And they're actually tools to help propel us forward, not to hold us back. They are to be experienced and moved through, not to be avoided, for our benefit, for our personal growth and development. You need to move through them to be able to get to the other side. And on the other side, guess what? It's like there's peace, clarity, there's love, there's joy. But how do we move through them really is the question, isn't it? And how do we move through big emotions? Now, as I said, I teach that your feelings come from your thoughts. When you are experiencing big emotions, sometimes it's not helpful to go to your thoughts, or you can't always gauge what is happening up there in your head. Big emotions can just feel overwhelming. They just feel big, and it's like they might consume you, which can feel kind of scary at times. Now, later on in my life, I remember I was having big emotions about my marriage, and a lot of shame was coming up. And I was in the process of learning these new skills and welcoming in my feelings and moving through them to transform them into the peace and clarity that I was being coached through, was possible through to the other side. But I remember having a reoccurring thought in my mind when big emotions came up. And that thought was, I don't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe to feel this. This doesn't feel safe for me. And I've actually found that other people that I coach have had a similar experience where it's like, it's all well and good to just say, feel it, just let it flood your body to move through it. But if you don't feel safe, your brain is going to shut down and your brain's not going to cooperate. You're not going to be able to reap all the benefits and the rewards of what is on the other side of those emotions. And so during this time where I was learning the tools, one of my coaches actually said to me, life is an internal experience, and the worst thing that can happen is that you experience negative emotion, and you'll get through it. Yes, you will. And how do you know? Because you've done it before. Now, that being said to me suddenly gave me the perspective that the worst thing that could possibly happen was that I would deeply experience negative emotions. That seemed to make it shift for me. That seemed to make it feel like I could do that because I have done it before. I started to think about things I'd gone through in my life that felt very deep and hard, and even times where I didn't feel safe, and I still made it through. How do I know? Because I'm still here. I was thinking about my parents' divorce. I was thinking about my mum's chronic health diagnosis. I was thinking about the first time I broke up with my first serious partner and how I felt that it was going to kill me at the time, that my heart was just aching so much. And I got through it. I remember the anxieties of job interviews. I remember traveling to new countries, to places that I didn't even speak the language. I remember the fear and the panic and the sleep deprivation in the postnatal period of having my children. I actually moved through these situations 100% of the time. And again, how do I know? Because I'm here to tell the stories. This may seem like an obvious statement, but this has been a total shift in my own perspective that has really made all the difference. I may not look back on those experiences and be very proud of the way that I moved through them, or really feel like I handled them well or confidently or competently or perfectly, but whatever that means, I got through them and here I am. And from this point, I would really like to invite you to feel safe within yourself. So just take a moment right now just to exhale. And I would like to offer you the possibility that you are safe and that you have made it through every experience that you've had in your life so far, 100%, because here you are. Well done, by the way. So what next? What do we do when the big emotions come? So let's look at a very practical example and exercise as to what we can do when this happens. So you next feel a big emotional rise. What do? You stop. You stop, and that's all you need to do for the moment, for a while. Now, I highly recommend that you get yourself an A5 notebook and a pen for you to carry around with you wherever you go. Certainly for a while, I carried my pad and pen around with me in my pockets, everywhere, every day. And I really do think that if you're wanting to master your emotions, you really need to take your training seriously and be committed to achieving your goal. So go get yourself a notepad and a pen that fits in your pocket. If you need to go buy pants that have pockets, then do so. I also used to wear, like in Australia, we call them bum bags. I'm not sure what else to call them for anyone else who might be watching from another country, but they're like a small pouch that clips around your waist like a belt. And I would put my notepad and my pen in that, and I would carry that around. But first, when you feel a big, heavy, and overwhelming emotion, you stop. And wherever you are, and name that emotion. Say it out loud. Anger. You can even say the words, I am angry. You can shout it if you want. It's okay, and you are still safe. Because did you know you can be angry and still be safe at the same time? Another big emotion like shame might arise, and you name it. You say, this is shame. Say it out loud. And you can cry if you want. It's okay because you're safe, right? You can feel shame and you can cry openly and you can still be safe. I just want you to know that. Name the emotion is the first thing. This is all you have to do to begin with. Start getting familiar with it. Start getting to know it. You can do this anywhere. You don't actually have to be in private, just as long as you don't throw your emotion at anyone else in the room, because we have a tendency to do that as human beings. We don't like these negative emotions and how they feel on the inside, and we want to get rid of it. We want to get rid of this feeling. And so we tend to throw these feelings at other people. And those big, heavy emotions often hurt other people when we throw out anger or shame. And of course, often they will throw it back and it hurts us more. And you can see where that goes. It's just more hurt and pain and hurt and pain. It actually doesn't get us anywhere. We're not moving through the experience to gain the insight as to what our emotion is here to help us to see on the other side. So when you start getting better at vocalizing the emotion, that's when I want you to get out your notepad and your pen and start to write it down. Stop. Feel it and write down, this is anger. This is shame. Of course, there are many more emotions that can be experienced beside anger and shame, but these are just the ones I'm using for the purpose of this exercise, but also they're the ones that I've got the most experience with. So once you're able to get good at stopping yourself and then writing the emotion down, you'll be able to inhale. In through the nose. I say smell the flowers. And then exhale out through the mouth like you're blowing out a birthday candle. Feeling comes up. Name the emotion. This is anger. Smell the flowers. Blow out the candle. And essentially that's it. This brings you into awareness. And when you can shine a torch in a dark place, then illuminate what's there. Things start to become obvious. Whatever's there, it loses its mystery or its power of the unknown, because you can look at it and you can really look at it. You might even start to get curious about it. And curiosity is where you find choice and you realize that you have choice as to what to do now, how to think, how to feel, how to act, how to be. And I tell you, friends, the solutions then find you. It's as simple and as difficult as that. So I really do encourage you to review this video as much as you need to familiarize yourself with these steps. And if you are having difficulty moving through your emotions after putting it into practice for some time, you may need a coach to help. And that's where I come in. You can always reach out to me using the link in the description below. And I would love to help you move out of the pain and move into the peace. Sometimes just having someone there to shout out the reps and to cheer you on can make all the difference. But I definitely recommend you give this a try for a couple of months to really find that it's making a difference in your life. You'll actually find that once you start to pay attention to it, you'll just do it a couple of times and you already feel the difference on the inside. I've been on this journey myself. I know that it is possible to move out of the pain and into the peace. So I hope that this video has been helpful in starting you on your journey in that direction and inside yourself. This video series has been so wonderful to be able to put together and to provide. It's really been a pilot project, as this is the last video in the series. I'm starting to work on some new material, and I really do value and appreciate, so grateful for your support and encouragement and feedback that you've provided for me along the way. So if you'd like to connect with me, I'm only ever an email away. And please remember, always keep it simple, keep it soft, and remember to exhale. Thanks so much.